Welcome to program 4.4 in the United Galactic Federation of Planets programs. This particular group is entitled Departures to Alpha Centauri. And as I have in front of me, and as you can tell by my shirt that I'm wearing, I have friends tonight that are here to help. This is an Indian angel, for those of you that care to look. And I also have an African American angel, and as we say in Hawaii, a haole angel. But tonight's program involves angels. And for those of you that have seen the pre-recorded programs on XS Tucson or on YouTube, you know that when I have on a plaid shirt, I'm talking about angels. This program is only for people who believe in angels. If you don't believe in angels, I suggest you do not watch this program. You may be offended. But I'm going to start off tonight with a story about flying. Those of us that have spent lifetimes in the air have more than likely been close to angels all those years. And I'd like to tell you two stories about flying, a happy story and a somewhat sad story. I spent more than 30,000 hours flying airplanes over 35 years. I've been retired from an airline now for more than 8 years, and it was a wonderful life. I thoroughly enjoyed my flying, and I've met many interesting people in the process. One of them was Fred Sorensen. And for those of you that are fans of Steven Spielberg movies, you might just recognize this airplane. Now, if you look closely at the tail, there is a number. Now that airplane is called a Waco, OB-CPO. So those of you with big screen TVs, you might be able to see it. But does that sound familiar? OB-CPO? Well, this movie was the first of the Indiana Jones movies. The name of the movie was Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it was a collaboration between Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. This was the first time they'd gone together to make a movie. And as a tribute to George Lucas by Steven Spielberg, he decided to throw in a little homage, as they say. George Lucas had just come out with a whole series of movies that were incredibly successful called Star Wars. And in the Star Wars saga, you have Obi-Wan Kenobi and C-3PO. And it just so happens the tail number on that Waco is OB and CPO. Fred, the pilot, Sorensen, was hired to fly the plane. And if you see it, or if you ever get to fly on Southwest Airlines, Fred is now a captain on Southwest, and he's got a great sense of humor, and he would just love to have you come up to the cockpit and say, "Are you the pilot of the plane that Harrison Ford climbed into and then flew off the river as they were being attacked by Indians?" And that's Fred, and he's got just all kinds of great stories I'd love to tell you about, but we do have a objective here tonight, and I need to fill you in on that. The next picture I want to show you is one from a few years ago. Can you see who that is in the photo by chance? This was probably about 1978, 77. And is there a little resemblance there between that young kid in that photo from 33 years ago? That was me when I was 28 years old, and my first airplane. I had a Piper Cherokee 140. My tail number was November 3455 kilo, and I put many thousands of hours on that plane. Great little airplane. And I have a story to tell you about that. I used to commute from the Bay Area in California up to the mountains. I was a fireman, and I worked 10 days a month, which is great. Firemen work 24-hour shifts, so we spend overnight at the firehouse. So I would fly to work one morning and then fly home the next morning. And on one particular morning in September 1978, I was halfway home, and our procedure is, if you're going to fly over, say, 100 miles, it's always best to ask for air traffic advisories from center. We have different controllers that we talk to. When you're taking off from an airport, you talk to the ground controller, the tower controller, the departure controller, the center controller. And if you're on a long flight at a prescribed altitude, then it's a wise idea to get radar advisories, which means in your transponder, we have a box on the panel. You could put in a 4-number code, and then when you show up on the controller screen, instead of just being a dot with no information, you now have your altitude, your destination, your airspeed, your type of aircraft, all the stuff they need to know. And then they can warn you about other planes that might be nearby. And it's a safe way to fly. And it's been used now for 40, 50 years, so everybody should do it. Well, this one particular morning, I've just gotten off work. You get off work at 8 in the morning, and I'm flying home to the mountains, to Sonora. Prescribed altitude for eastbound flights are 5,000 plus 500, so I'm at 5,500 feet. I'm over Manteca, California. I'm heading eastbound. To my left is Stockton Airport, and to my right is Modesto, and a Boeing 727 had just taken off from Stockton. And he's climbing up to his cruise altitude, which is in the 20,000 feet or so. And the controller tells me that you have traffic at your 11 o'clock. Now, when we fly, the nose of the airplane is 12 o'clock. And then, it's going to look funny, you guys. To my left, to your right, that's 11 o'clock. If you took a clock and laid it down flat in front of you. And to my right, it's 1 o'clock. So it's reversed on TV, but whatever. So the controller says you have traffic at your 11 o'clock. He's climbing out of Stockton. It's a PSA, Pacific Southwest Airlines, 727. He's through 2,000 feet, and he's 20 miles. I'm at 5,500 feet. He's climbing. I'm going east. He's going southeast. He's going to Los Angeles, from Stockton to Los Angeles. So I look, and I don't see him. In the early morning, the air gets kind of hazy, and you don't see very well. But you take a look anyway. I can't see him. We say no joy. No joy if you don't see your traffic. A few moments later, controller comes back and says, okay, your traffic is now at your 10 o'clock. He's climbing through 4,000 feet. I'm up here at 5,500. He's climbing through 4,000, and he's 10 miles. So I look again. I still can't see him. A few more moments later, controller comes back a third time. And this time the controller is getting anxious. And he says, your traffic is now at your 9:30. He's climbing through 5,000 feet, and he's 5 miles. Well, I'm going around 100 miles an hour, and he's accelerating up to 250 miles per hour. So we have a closure rate of very fast. And if we're heading to the same point, we're going to be there in just a matter of moments. And I decide at that point, I better take a much closer look. So I roll my wing down and look hard, and holy Moses, he is coming right straight at me. And thank God, thank somebody, he was on my frequency. He had talked to ground, to tower, to departure, and now he's on Oakland Center. And when I see him, I right away key my mic. I say, Oakland Center, 55 kilo, collision course, I'm pulling up. And I grab the oak and I pull back as hard as I can and try to get altitude, because we are coming right at each other. And I look at him, and he puts his nose down, and he goes directly under me. And I could count the rivets on the top of his fuselage as he went by. And we missed, literally, by that much. And if he's alive today, if the captain or the co-pilot are alive today, I would like very much if you guys would call me, because I want to share my side of the story and also tell you what happened that day, because something else of great importance took place. And that brings us to the second part of this story. This happened within minutes. This is a PSA 727 on its way down in San Diego, California. That PSA 727 ran over another small 4-passenger aircraft. In this case, it was a Cessna 172 that was in the pattern at Lindbergh Field in San Diego. There was an instrument instructor with a student. They were on an instrument flight plan. They were being controlled by the controllers, but they were both warned. And the PSA pilots saw the small plane at first, and the guys in the small plane saw the PSA, but apparently they lost track of each other, and PSA ran over the Cessna, hit him on the right wing, fuel tank ruptured, plane caught fire, they lost hydraulics, the 727 nosed over and crashed into a residential neighborhood I have a hard time with this. The 727 crashed in a residential neighborhood in San Diego, and 6 people on the ground died, plus everybody on board the PSA died. And my heart goes out to the families of the people on the ground and the people in the plane, because it's always a tragedy when people are killed, and you hate to see it happen. Well, I didn't find out about it until I was driving home. I landed at my airport up in the Sierras, and I'm driving up the hill to my house, and I've got the radio on, and they're reporting that a PSA 727 has just crashed in San Diego. And I'm thinking, oh my Lord, what an incredible coincidence that one airline with the same kind of airplanes at the same time in the morning, heading the same directions, would have had 2 near misses within minutes of each other, but one ended up in a total fatality. Everybody died. And for 30 years, I kept thinking I was very lucky. Well, I have a close friend who's part Yaqui Indian from here in Tucson, and John is also very smart. He graduated with honors from the University of Arizona here in Tucson, went on to Yale Law School, became a lawyer. But at the same time, he's clairvoyant. He sees things, he understands things. And I'm telling him this story in May, 3 years ago, May of 2008. And I'm telling him how lucky I was. And John looked me in the face and said, "You weren't lucky." He said, "You were traded." And I said, "What?" And he said, "It was not your day to die." He said, "You had to live for a reason. And somebody else had to die." And I told him at the time, I don't want to be responsible for the death of people. But he said, well, if it wasn't them, it would be you and all the people on the other plane. So I guess in some ways, if that many people had to die, that's the way it has to be. And John said that's called a tell, T-E-L. It's an Indian term, American Indian term. And if there are any Indians out there listening, would you please help to confirm that? I have searched everywhere for that term. And John says when God needs to change history, he can stop the clock, stop the tape, rewind, and start it up again. So I actually died that day. I was hit by that 727. We all went down in a big flaming pile. We augured a hole in the ground. But apparently they reset the clock, and I'm still here to talk to you. So, the story is, there are times when God can interfere in our world and change things. And I've gone back through my life, and I have found 13 times when I should have died. I was a fireman. I've been in fires where houses have exploded and spit big shards of glass into trees behind the house, and I've been standing there just moments earlier. Well, I was killed. Those shards went right through me. I was cut to pieces. My 2 firefighters were killed. But apparently that couldn't happen, so we were given 30 seconds, and I'm here to tell you. And I've been in all kinds of accidents. There are forces at work in this world. They're called forces of evil that have tried very hard to kill me. And they haven't. Unfortunately, others have had to die in my place, which I have a hard time accepting. But there are angels, very powerful angels, at work. They're called principalities. Principalities are the highest ranking angels. They have the ability to change things. And I thank them. So that brings us now to another subject. This series of programs talk about departures to Alpha Centauri. Well, we have a problem. This Earth is in great danger. And those of you that have watched the pre-recorded programs may know what this is about. Now you can catch those on YouTube. And if you put in UGFP or United Galactic, you will get 24 uploads that I've put on YouTube. Like the first one in the series is called Mars. And Mars is the first indication that something is coming. And the more people that know about it, the better. Because we need to make our entire species aware that our Earth is in for an event that happens on a regular basis. This happens every 15,000 years or thereabouts. And we have to evacuate. And there is a plan to get us off this planet. And that's what this series of programs has been about. We've tried to explain to you how our bodies are made up of 3 materials. And in the program 2 before this, I showed you a chart of how we work when you take out parts of those materials. Whether you're a fetus before you're born, or whether you're an adult, or whether you're going to travel to Alpha Centauri. That's what this is all about. We have to get out of here. And there is a way. And it starts here in Tucson. Tucson, Arizona is the first place. And I do have volunteers. People have signed up. And the great news is, once you get there, you can turn right around and come right back. There's no requirement to stay. And the great news too is Alpha Centauri is our jumping off point. It's kind of like Ellis Island was in the last 2 centuries of America. I read somewhere that Ellis Island processed something like 400,000 people a year when all those immigrants were coming in from Europe to come to the U.S. Well, Alpha Centauri is going to be the same thing for us. We have a place to go initially. It's our stepping off point. And then from there, we can venture the galaxy. And there are multitudes of beings, of intelligent beings. They can't wait for us to come see them because we have something they don't have. And they're looking very forward to having us visit. What I wanted to share with you tonight is some more information about angels. In the first of my angel programs, I talk about this guy. This is a rain stick. Those of you from Tucson and Arizona may recognize it. It's the inside of a saguaro cactus. It's full of seeds. It makes this wonderful sound. Well, this is the kind of sound that angels love. And then, in that program, I also talked about this device. This is called an anactron. This is an angel-activated zymatron. And in that program, I explained how the stock market is controlled by emotions. It's all about greed and about fear, and how the angels actually put fear into people's hearts on September 29th, 2008. And the market took a dive. It lost 777 points. And then for the next 5.5 months, it lost over 7,000 points. Well, a month and a half before that, I was telling everybody, if you're in the market, get out. The market was at 14,000. I said, sell, get out. Then, on March 9th, 2009, I told everybody, if you got the funds, buy today. The market then was in the mid 6,000s. And sure enough, on March 10th, the market went up 369 points. And ever since then, it's continued going up. And we're back up to the 12,000 level. That was all angels. Angels were behind that. That was called a show of power. The angels have enormous power. Up until now, they can only affect us up here. They're not allowed to touch us, except maybe in my case, principalities. But the angels are very, very powerful, and they're going to play an important role, and that's where the picture comes in, behind me. Can you guys see this? It's a picture of a hot tub. I'll see if I can get out of the way a little bit. There's a company up in Seattle that makes these wonderful wood hot tubs. Chair's in the way. And here we've got a bunch of gnomes that are all scrambling to climb into this nice warm hot tub. Well, believe it or not, that has something to do with how we get to go to Alpha Centauri. It's called a protocol. If you're going to come into this world, if you're going to come into the physical, if you're going to be born into our physical world, you have to come in water, naked. We spend 9 months in our mother's stomachs, floating around in amniotic fluid. And just before we're born, her bag of waters breaks, and we pop out, naked. That's protocol. In water, naked. If you're going to go to Alpha Centauri, that's part of the process. Now, don't worry about being embarrassed. That's all been taken care of. We have a way for everybody to be able to get into the water without anybody seeing their naked body. And then once you're in the water, you'll take off the swimming suit or the bathrobe that we'll provide. And then when everybody's ready, poof, and off we go. Now, there's another part of the process, which is kind of fun. If you might have noticed, I just picked up a jar, and it's full of jacks. Let's put these over here, see if this works. These are children's jacks, the kind that kids play with. Come in all kinds of colors, all kinds of shapes. And these are part of the process. Essentially, when you're ready to go, that's what you'll use to indicate that you're ready. So we're at the end of our time, and I hear the music coming, so thank you for watching. Make sure to check us out on YouTube and write to me. Aloha, ahui ho.